I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Mohica. Trustee Cascarella.
Present.
Trustee Brewer.
Present.
Trustee Baldwin. Treasurer Fetal.
Here.
Clerk Clark is present. Supervisor Fletcher.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. A motion to excuse trustees Bowen and Move.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. We have the agenda before us. We do have to make a change. The action item number 8 needs to be pulled from the agenda today. It was advertised for May 1st, so we can't adopt that actually until May 1st. So we're gonna pull that. So I'll move that we approve the agenda as amended. Is there support? There is support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Open the public hearing on the New Covenant Christian School noise waiver. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on that application for a noise waiver? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and I'll move that the Delta Township Board approve the request by the New Covenant Christian School for a waiver of the noise ordinance between the hours of 8:10 or 10:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. on April 30th. Is there support?
Support.
There is support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. You have numerous communications in your board packet there to read. Public comment. Anybody here in the audience this evening would like to speak on any topic? And it's no longer on the agenda this evening, but you're certainly welcome to come up and share any thoughts if you have any.
I'm going to ask for 3 minutes and 3 seconds because that's how long it takes me to read through it. And I had to change it because your agenda items moved around.
Sure.
So-
Could you just pull the microphone down?
Okay, sure. I just don't want to hear a ding at 3 minutes, but I promise it's really close to 3 minutes. So my name is Betsy Berger and I live at 7727 Barsfield Lane. My property, I'm here tonight to talk about the rezoning of the property there on M43 in Broadbent. My property, my east line property line abuts the west property line of what's being proposed there. I'm coming to you tonight with concerns regarding the proposed rezoning. This property, along with several homes that abut this property, are zoned Ag 2. The request to go from Ag 2 to RC moderate density residential is a 3-step increase in rezoning, which is a large step increase that I do not feel has been properly evaluated for the impact it has going to have on this area. At the planning commission meeting on March 27th, several concerns were brought up that, to my surprise, I didn't feel were addressed. There's actually more discussion by the planning commission on truck noise for the proposed business in an industrial area by Old Lansing Road than there was about how 303 apartment units with over 600 people was going to affect public infrastructure like roadways, utilities, police and fire, schools. While there are several areas of concern, I have 3 I'd like to talk about. First, at the March 27th meeting, it was brought up that there's still some planning that needs to be done, excuse me, regarding the wastewater treatment and how it's going to go from the proposed development to the Willow treatment plant. What's the best route for it to take? There's going to be possibly a need for increased pumps to accommodate the increased flow. Who's going to pay for all this? Residents, developers? I feel a thorough cost analysis and understanding of how this step of the project will be achieved needs to be done before rezoning is considered. Next, as someone who's lived next to the property for 18 years, there is a huge water drainage problem on that property. During the planning commission meeting, one of the board commissioner members stated how he was pleased that the 2 existing ponds would be kept to assist with the draining water. Right now, those ponds are overflowing. Every spring, a large area of standing water forms in the field that pops up on the north side of my property and literally will create a stream of water flowing through the woods into the lower lying area of land behind my neighbors to the north of me. Just last week, the standing water was knee deep and ran all the way from the farm field to the retention pond located 6 houses to the west of the field. I have serious concerns about what will happen when when cement is laid for 303 apartment units, guest parking, roads, and sidewalks. Again, I think this needs to be addressed before rezoning this property. Finally, while I understand that the May 1st meeting now will be to talk about rezoning, I don't think you can talk about rezoning without talking about the conceptual plans that they have for the apartments. This, and I'm happy to leave this, is a view from my backyard. So I look right onto this field. At the March 27th meeting, I brought up my concerns that the longest attached units on the proposed conceptual plans run directly behind my home. There are anywhere from, these units are anywhere from 58 to 61 yards long with 54 windows looking into my backyard. I don't think any of you would want to have that in your backyard. After the meeting, I spoke with Mr. Knowles, who was a representative here for the development company, about this concern, and he rather harshly told me, and I quote, "You only need to be concerned about what is on your property line, not everything that you can see." I would hope that the township has more concern for the residents and how structures on adjoining properties, both physically and visually, impact them and their property value. I'm requesting that the board takes time to thoroughly look into these concerns and issues before making a decision to rezone this property to RC moderate density residential. Maybe something like a subdivision or condo community would be a better solution for this property rather than more apartments. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming, sharing your concerns. And I do know your letter was presented. The planning department is aware of your concerns and everything as the whole site plan moves through the approval process and everything, trying to address some of the concerns in terms of setback screenings, things like that. I know on the water issue, the Eaton County Drain Commissioner has to approve all the drain issues and water issues and stuff on a site before it can be approved and move forward. So that's a review process that would take place before anything moves forward. So these are all things that are taken into consideration as the process moves forward.
And I do appreciate that. My concern is though, if this gets rezoned and we find out things like the developer is not going to help pay for the wastewater treatment and they pull out what could go in there. You know, it's so that's some of the concerns. I know others are going to hear talk about traffic and all that. I could go on for a long time, but I know I'm over my 3 minutes, but I just, you know, it's a big concern. I drive this every day. There's an accident probably every other day. You have 300 units there, 400 coming in Delta Mills. I just think there needs to be some more thought about this. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment?
Hello, my name is Mike Beck, 312 Barrington Circle, talking on the same topic. My concern, of course, I have several, which I agree fully with Trish there. I don't know how you could actually approve something without looking at the total cost, and that's the sewer issue. I'm not sure how long that's going to take, but I would table it until you get all the costs in, just to see where you're at for that issue. When you're talking about and there's the other aspect, excuse me here, of the traffic issue that they have. We looked at the traffic study. I think that traffic study, of course, is not for light reading, really focuses only on that particular project. I think you have to consider the one over there. I call it BJ's, behind BJ's, of what's going in there as a total traffic project of what's going to be happening around here. As you can see out here right now, just a little construction's got everything backed up, and it's not going to get any better than that. And I don't have a solution for it other than don't put more rental houses in. I don't think people are really looking for rentals. They're looking to buy. I mean, it's American dream. You want to buy your own home. You know, this isn't, you know, Sanford over here, you know, moving on up to the east side, looking for a deluxe apartment in the sky. It's not New York. This is, people want to buy something. And when you own something, whether it's a single family home, whether it's a condo, whether it's a town home, you take ownership of that and you take more pride into it. Another concern for us is the safety around there. What you're going to have, transits coming in, coming out, moving back and forth, crime issues that go along with all that. And it's that whole gambit of all that. I just think that whether it's condos, townhouses, cross the out from apartments and put condos, and I think you'll get a lot better results, at least from the co-owners around in the neighborhood. Also, one major concern of mine is we have a private road that the road commission insists on putting their Barrington Woods or, the broadband access directly across from ours. And it's a private road. We already have some issues with people cutting through from Menards. We have to pay for that road. We have to maintain the road. It costs a lot of money for us to keep that up. And all you're going to do is just invite people to cut through because they're going to see the traffic And that could be a shortcut for them to get over there to market and to cut some few cars off and to slide in later on. And that's what's going to be happening. And you're going to force up to put up gates. We priced out the gates, and for both entrances, it's $70,000, and I got 2 bids on that. And that, you know, it's something that we really don't want to have to be forced to pay. We'll have to have an assessment on that for our own internal, just to get that covered. But we've asked the developer if they with any assistance they could make on that. And of course, they said no. But a lot of concerns here for the traffic, a lot of concerns for the safety, a lot of concerns as far as what's going to happen to our little neck of the woods there. And I'm sure you're going to hear it and hear it again before we get through. But do you get your cost in? I table this sucker. Do you get some idea what it's really going to cost the actual township and how much they're going to really contribute? And I get it in writing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Anybody else in the audience?
Good evening. My name is Trisha Schneeberger. I live at 11389 Broadbent Road. I would like to speak to the project as well. I appreciate you guys taking our comments. I know you've probably heard a lot about this already, and the planning commission has as well. I've lived on Broadbent my entire life. My family has been on Broadbent for almost 200 years, and we've watched it grow up around here. We know that change and development is inevitable. We're not ignorant to that. But I have a lot of concerns about this particular rezoning and project. Without taking too much of your time, because I know you've heard a lot about this. Some of the big concerns that I have that I'd like to share with you is the zoning. Obviously, you have 2 different things at hand here, is the rezoning and the special land use permit. With the zoning, we've watched all of the farm fields get bought up and built up. And we've been dreading this field getting developed for years. However, in the township plan, it was initially put out that it was going to be low density housing. So we're thinking, all right, a subdivision, some condos, we can deal. So I very much question why all of a sudden we're going to moderate density with a proposed plan for rentals, which I know the plan is separate from zoning. But I very much question the motive on that, and the support of the community, or if those in favor are only those making a profit on it. My other concern is with the plan itself, which I am aware is a separate issue. I do want to thank the developer for leaving room in their plan for keeping some woodlands in the water. But with that being said, the field does have standing water all the time. And I've been here long enough that I've seen it dry. The developments that have come in have created the water problem that's there. And I know that it's kind of a county drain commission issue, but in the grand scheme of things, we elect you to take care of us and those that elect you and live here. And I know for a fact that if a development goes in there, it's going to push the water to the point that there's going to have to be another drain upgrade, which I know is outside of the township. However, our properties then get assessed for that. And I've watched it twice in my lifetime that somebody developed a subdivision or whatever it may be, and we have to pay the cost of that. And I just want you to look into the cost to your constituents. And also, I know you're well aware of the potential cost issue of the sewer. With that being said, I absolutely appreciate you giving me time to speak, and have a good evening.
Great, thanks. Anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak? Okay, great, thanks. We'll continue now to the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the board on the items on our consent agenda this evening? Andrea,
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
is there support?
Support.
There is support. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on approving the consent agenda?
Trustee Cascarella,
Yes.
trustee Brewer,
Yes.
trustee Bowen. Trustee Mohica,
Yes.
treasurer Fedewa.
Yes.
Clerk Clark is yes, supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Managers report. Brian, what do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. Not a lot tonight, just hopefully you received your edition of Delta Now in your mailbox this weekend. So those have hit mailboxes. And then second, I will be joining Treasurer Fedewa. Tomorrow we'll be presenting to the Friends of the Lansing River Trail. So you remember they were here and invited us to speak in January. So I'll be giving a presentation tomorrow night to that group. So that is all I have for tonight, but happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks.
Just a clarification, is the board, we're just making a presentation to the board, to Flirt, not their big annual meeting that's usually late summer, which all the surrounding communities come and give their annual update to the stakeholder group. So it's a pleasure to be invited for them, and we'll talk to them tomorrow night. Thank you for making yourself available, Manager Reed.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Any other questions for Brian? Seeing that? Okay, thanks, Brian. Move to the committee. The whole, we have the planning department's annual report. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I think we're going to be short and sweet here. I won't embellish too much. Just first of all, thank you for your support through the years and letting us do our job. And that's always good to know that we have the backing of the board and others to help us along in our daily activities. So the first slide, if you would, Mary, is just a quick summary of our activities for the last 3 years, 20 through 22. You see we're down a little bit this year. I think that's still a little holdover from the COVID years. So not as many zoning amendments or rezoning applications, special land use. We're down a little bit in terms of activity. We're up in code enforcement actions, of course, but pretty much consistent how we've been the last few years during COVID. We've already seen an uptick in activity this year, as you know, because you see pretty much everything that we do come across in our office in terms of rezoning, special land uses and things like that. Significant activities from last year, preparation of the capital improvements program. We do that every year. The Township Planning Department is now the staff for the Sign Board of Appeals meetings. So we've taken it over from the building department. We've assisted, we've had a vacancy in the economic development director position. We have a new one. Thank you, Peter, on board. But during that period, we assisted with those activities. Continuing education for staff. We sent staff to a number of seminars and conferences to keep up their professional certifications. As you remember, we revisited the recreational marijuana status again. Probably bring that back at some point. We're waiting, as you recall, for some news from our township attorney on the disposition of several cases that were out there yet to be decided that may have an impact on that. Large site plan projects, LTM, of course, is a major one, and then Delta Crossings, who we now know is on hold because of some litigation between the developers. We're not a party to it, but we are keeping apprised of what's going on, just so we know what we're going to be dealing with in the future. Looking ahead in 2023, we're working on amendments to the sign ordinance for compliance with the contract neutrality decisions by the United States Supreme Court. We're assisting updating that motorized transportation plan that's being led by the engineering department. We're going to assist them where needed. Assist with the corridor improvement authority where needed. We're going to incorporate whatever CIA plan is developed into the master plan update. We'll have to do that. And continuing education for staff, continue to monitor zoning ordinance for possible enhancements. As one example is the cottage housing situation. That project is on hold right now, but we want to proceed with the amendments, so we're ready for something like that. Supervisor Fletcher mentioned two issues. He wanted to explore Airbnb regulations. We've already started that, and Trustee Bowen mentioned the housing study. So she had some programs that you became aware of at the state level. So we bring those back to the board for discussion.
Gary, question, in your, on the slide looking ahead, appreciate seeing, the sign ordinance, possible sign ordinance amendments, but I know, as a member of both the zoning board of appeals and the sign board of appeals, with the ZBA, we've had a number of issues that have come up over the last year or so related to our ordinances that have received some reoccurring variance requests. And so it was suggested that we might need to look at some changes to our ordinance. Some of those are with the freestanding buildings on site, residential sites, and that the restrictions on those. And there were some others, and I just didn't see that listed. Is that some of?
Yeah, we
is that
have, so I
being prepared?
have a list of, as we go through the zoning ordinance, as we encounter situations that maybe aren't addressed in the zoning ordinance, uses that aren't listed that people are interested in bringing to the township, reoccurring issues with variances and things like that. So I have a list of, 20 revisions possible to the ordinance. So those will be coming to you in groups of, half dozen or so, just to make either corrections that we see needed made or those issues identified as we, work through the ordinance. I mean, it's a relatively young ordinance, even in 2017. So we're finding issues as we, we may not have applied a section before, but yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. I just didn't see that kind of specifically noted there and
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that was something coming this year. So appreciate that.
We have a compiled list of changes.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Well, Gary, I just want to compliment you. I've never ceased to be amazed by everything you and your colleagues do in the planning department, and you can condense that down into 3 narrative slides.
It's just the facts, Joe Friday. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Gary? Do you have anything else you want to add or?
No, just again, thank you again for your support, and we'll just continue to do what we do. So.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gary. We appreciate it. Any final comments from the board?
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank the residents that came and speak tonight, even though their issue, it wasn't removed from the agenda due to error. I do appreciate the time and thought that you put into your concerns and how you articulate them before the board. So that's very much appreciated. And I know a number of us, the whole board does listen and take that into consideration. So thank you again for what you do, coming before the board with your very articulate thoughts and concerns and presentation of those. Thank you.
Any other? Public comment. Anybody like to speak again? Public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll see no further business before us. We are adjourned.
Not a record.